You and I were calling for new lows back in November. Ended up being dead on that. We didn't know that FTX was going to be the catalyst to that. It was. I'm really glad to not really see Sam Bankman-Fried's face too much anymore. I just automatically don't look at anything because I don't care about that news anymore, and it's in the past. But as we get further and further away from that, does it seem evident to you that although other things can happen, and we've got like Genesis and DCG stuff to talk a little bit about here tonight, you know, what could be worse than an entire exchange going down like FTX? You know, I mean, do you think there's anything? We already know like any kind of Mt. Gox stuff is just, you know, hit the reset button way into next year, later this year. Who knows when any of that's going to happen and whatever. But what could be worse than an entire exchange going up in flames? I mean, like, I'm warming up to the idea, maybe not that the bottom is in, but I'm starting to feel like that the sentiment bottom is very, very close. The majority of people are pretty wiped out and think 12K. So,
well, I think we've talked about this before, but I still think there wasn't a massive amount of sell pressure when FTX went down. Normally, if an exchange goes down or gets hacked, especially gets hacked, you see those people that stole the coins usually sell them. They get dumped pretty much immediately. And with FTX, because everything was derivatives, because it's all hidden somewhere else, most likely, you know, there's other accounts that have millions of dollars in them, hundreds of millions of dollars that, you know, we probably just don't know about. It's not being sold. So there's no sell pressure. I think that would definitely would have brought the prices down to where we kind of thought they would go in the 10, 11K, maybe 12K region for Bitcoin. But because, you know, there just wasn't sell pressure, that didn't happen. So
yeah.
I think, you know, a hack would have been worse, honestly, or better, depending on how you want to look at it. We want to get this over and done with, right, as quickly as we can. So, you know, I think that would have been, you know, it would have gotten us to the floor where we really need to be. It just hasn't happened. So we'll see what happens with the DCG and the Genesis, and you know, if they do have to liquidate some of their coins on Grayscale. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, we did get down to the low 15Ks whenever FTX happened, so I guess it isn't really all that. I mean, that's a relatively sizable move. I mean, you're talking what, like another 30% down from there, so to get to 12K. So I guess that does make sense. But just in terms of, you know, where we are here, like I said, the sentiment that I'm just seeing in most places, and again, this isn't TA. I'm not using like any kind of like crazy math to get here. I'm just looking at, I mean, the majority of people are extremely bearish, and on every YouTube video, I mean, all you see are comments to the downside. Even like the big mainstream channels and everything, you know, are constantly negative, constantly calling for the low teens and everything. And time-wise, we've talked about this, of course, many times as well. You can argue whether or not the double top in November of 2021 to now, or in the spring of 2021, April or May, when we were in 65 or so K again, what was the true start of this bear market? I mean, I would tend to say November, but you know, I think there's some validity to the belief that like the downtrend kind of started in the spring. And then, you know, we just kind of retraced back up to the highs in the fall. But we've been in this, if you want to count it from November now, for 14 months, you know, almost 14 months. And we're going to get to what Wake Dog said there yet. CPI reading tomorrow is going to be interesting. But yeah, so I mean, we've been here for a long time. That's the other thing I'm thinking too. And I just don't think some of these other things like the DCG stuff, the Genesis stuff, even you and I mean, like I'm seeing other people on Twitter and stuff. You brought up the whole OntarioCrypto.com Tether thing, and you're not the only one. I've seen other people bringing that up. It's almost like we're looking for, oh, this is it. This is the thing that's going to send it to 12K. Like, you know, FTX was the last low, and this is what's going to do it. And I'm just like, I don't think people care about these stories. I think it's, well, for lack of a better term, priced in, you know?
Yeah, I don't think they do either. I just think they want an event to happen to get there so we can get done with it. You know, that's what, you know, the goal for all of us is to hit this bottom and get out of it. it's pretty anxious right now to get there and get it over with.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I think it could be over with. I mean, if you or you, who I know, and I pretty much have been too, but just, I don't know, this last week or so, I just am looking at more and more. I know you've been married to the fact that you think we're going to 11-ish K or something like that. And I mean, I've definitely considered it a strong possibility, but at this point, and I am not saying this because we're pumping tonight. I was thinking this even earlier in the week as well. It just seems, I just have a feeling going off some of this sentiment and stuff like that. I guess to me, like, it doesn't matter in the long run. I mean, like, if you are a longer term investor, yeah, it would be nice to get 50% lower on the asset that you're looking at or something. But at this point, I mean, I'm buying and I don't care about the consequences. It's just, that's where I'm at right now. So,
well, with the long term mindset, yes. I mean, you're not in several years. You're not going to be upset if you got in $1,000 or $5,000 difference on Bitcoin, or even at this point, if it's a half a cent or a cent and a half on Hex. I don't think you're gonna be too upset. We're always going to need Ethereum if we're operating with Hex and things like that to use for gas. That can get out of hand, as you know, in the bull markets. So, you're always going to want to try and stash a little bit of Ethereum so that you have it, in those times when it gets like that. So, I mean, for dollar cost averaging, I don't think you're going to go wrong with that long-term outlook. However, I think the markets have gotten elongated. I think the time on them is starting to draw out, and plus the overall economic situation that we're working with here that has never happened at the same time that there was a bear market in crypto. I think the time is going to be an issue with this one, and I hope it bottoms. I hope, like you said, you think we've bottomed, but I just don't see it. And I think we're in for still some more pain. So prepare for that option as well.
I definitely think we could still be in for more pain. I mean, I'm not, I'd say I'm probably like just maybe 60-40 to this point that we have bottomed. I'm warming up to the idea that we have. But I mean, like right now. So we're seeing this big pump right now. I think we'll probably continue to see it for the next few days if we get a solid CPI reading, which I have a feeling we're going to. Like Wake Dog said, we're already kind of front running it. That takes place tomorrow. So we will hear that. And if I'm not, I believe it's the new calculation of the CPI where it rolls over the data. So, I mean, your average person isn't going to know that probably, and I don't even really understand it or care that much.
I was going to say, care to explain, because I'm not sure too much about it either.
It's like a rolling. I don't even want to say it without knowing for sure. It's basically like the time markers move up, and it's actually a different metric than exactly what we had been looking at. But either way, I think we are going to continue to see. What's more important is I think we're going to see better readings than people were expecting. They will show that inflation is coming down, and I think the market responds positively. I mean, we're already seeing it going in. I think this pump probably continues after that. And to your point, Ewok, yeah, I agree that pain's not over. I think we're getting this massive green candle right now. And that 18.6 thing sounds exactly right. I could totally see us getting up towards 19K or something, and then retracing back into the mid 17s again. And this could really, people are FOMOing in right now. Like you can see. The funny thing is, I just saw, I think it was Pentoshi, who's one of my favorite accounts to follow for crypto Twitter, but he was just showing how like people get pissed off where the price is moving, no matter where it's moving right now. Like all of a sudden we get this big green candle and people are upset about that now. It's funny, but I think you're right. I think this is going to trap a lot of people and FOMO a lot of people in.
Yeah, I do too. I think we're definitely going to go back down and even back toward that 15K range, I think.
Possible. Yeah, I think over the course of this month, because don't forget, as much as I get sick, and I know we've gotten sick of talking about the Fed stuff, we have CPI tomorrow, and then the FOMC meeting is January 31st and February 1st. So we figure to continue to see a rate hike at that meeting. And I think most people are pricing in or expecting about only, I think they think they're going to cut it down to the quarter of a point this next time around. So,
And wasn't
well,
it? I think I did the math. I wrote it down somewhere, I thought, but we were looking at what January. We took the average of all the bear markets in the past, according to days, did the average,
right.
and I think it came out to be whatever it was, 453 days was the average, which came to January 17th or 18th, I believe. So that's
Okay.
that's a
1
week
week till the
away.
end.
Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
For the
There you
average,
go.
anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, it would be in line. I mean, I don't know where you would definitely for this, I guess. I mean, like it's all up to what you call the bottom of the bear market, which I'm guessing from your data there, it would be like whatever the bottom price was, which for that, we're actually going the whole way back to November. So that would be about 365 days if you're really looking at it that way. But yeah, either way, the price action that we've seen recently, I could see us retouching that, like, that 15K area again, possibly. But I don't know. I feel like there's just enough bad sentiment out there. And something that I like to do in moments like this, we talked about this last E-Walk, I noticed when I was reviewing last week's stream, is since none of us know all, even though a lot of people on Twitter like to pretend that they do, it is good to surround yourself with different opinions, whether that's somebody who is like down only, up only. I can name a couple accounts on Twitter that have been saying 12K since June, basically, and just continue to beat the drum and saying even weirder stuff like 12K by the end of 2022, which of course didn't happen. What's the point of even saying that? I don't know.
Right.
But now I forget where I was really going with this. So
The different opinions. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the people, I know I mentioned him a lot, but I appreciate him because he's a more long-term investor or trader, I guess you would say, in Bitcoin. But Bob Lucas, he's basically calling the bottom to be in. I mean, he's already released a video calling for the start of the new 4-year cycle. He said that he bought his last kind of tranche of Bitcoin at about 17.2K the other morning. And he's just moving on. So, and a lot of people, of course, and this is what I'm saying, like the sentiment, like all of his comments were filled with people that are like, what about DCG? What about this? What about that? And it's just like, I don't know what kind of sell pressure there's going to come from any kind of incident like that, as well as like that, whatever it was, Silvergate or something bank that you sent me earlier today. I don't know how much sell pressure we're going to get from that. And I don't think the market is all that worried about that stuff.
Well,
Once
the
you've seen
Silvergate
something,
thing.
go ahead.
Well, the Silvergate thing, the reason I sent that to you was because us as tax-paying citizens are bailing them out.
Yes.
They were involved with a lot of the fraud, along with FTX. They were one of the banks that they had been using to move money. And when they realized that their balance sheets were short, they filed for these government assistance plans, and they got like $4.5 billion. So that's more why I sent it to you. It was more just another, stab in the United States citizens that we're bailing out all these criminals again. So that's why I sent it. It wasn't so much with, it didn't have really anything to do with anything other than that.
No, I understand. And also though, I think just like you're saying, more negative sentiment around something to do in general with crypto, just for anybody seeing that headline. But I agree with you 100%. And I feel like there's so many people looking for down and expecting, once something like the FTX thing happens, it seems like people, I don't want to say expect that to be commonplace or think that it's going to happen again soon or something like that, but it just seems like everybody is so ready and kind of just bracing themselves for that next big move down and looking for what the thing is going to be. And I just think like, this is the time to be greedy when everybody's fearful. That's just kind of how I'm looking at it right now, I think.
Yep. There's never a bad time to be greedy in a bear market when you're approaching these levels.
Yeah.